I never thought I could be
Yeah.
so free.
Flying
Flying
away
away
on
a wing and a
in
prayer. Okay,
prayer.
I think we're live. I
Let's
think it's
talk about-
official.
Let's talk about that bloody shield.
Let's talk about that bloody shield.
Now, okay, we are going to talk about that bloody shield, but for the purposes of remaining spoiler-free, we're not going to tell people if there's a significance to that particular turn of phrase.
That's more about
Is
like
it spoiler free or free spoilers?
no.
Spoiler-free.
Okay.
If they want spoilers at this point, they're going to have to pay, but we don't take super chats yet. So.
Patreon. Go to Patreon.
Yeah,
you'll
see,
get all the
right.
There you
Here's
go.
a
Keep
question.
that man employed.
Here's an offer. Build Ian's Patreon, and then we can talk. No.
Oh,
So
good point.
we are
That's why
here
I don't
to
have
talk. We are here to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 4, which is subtitled "The
Watch
Whole World Is Watching."
It is.
Mhm.
You remember what movie that was from?
Sound
No.
music. No, I have no idea.
Black Panther.
Sure.
Was that from Black Panther?
Yeah.
I think Shuri says that. The whole
Yeah,
world is
Yeah,
watching.
the whole world is
And
watching.
she gets a nice
Okay.
name drop in here too.
Yep.
So
She does. Stop
Once
with
again-
the spoilers. Okay.
well, that's not a spoiler
He
because
just-
we
he
saw a
just said-
Wakandan.
He just
Hmm?
said no
If you haven't
spoilers,
seen
and he
Black
said
Panther, I'm sorry.
just put the bar on now. Let's just go. Let's just go. No recaps. Let's just dive in.
Let's just go to the bar. Oh,
All right, because I feel like
Cheers.
I've been out. I feel like I've been outvoted.
No, it's your show. It's still your show.
No,
We're
this
talking
is your show.
spoilers.
Let's go.
This is your show, Ian. You can run it how
Yeah.
you want. We're just
Right.
Well,
Everybody
then I'm.
dies.
Well,
Can
I'm gonna.
I just
2
start
episodes
out?
to go.
Can I
Oh,
just, guys,
God.
start out by saying we need to pay homage and rest in peace to E-Man because he's no longer with us.
He's still with us.
He's moved
In
on
spirit.
to higher places, and
He's got
you
his
He's
know,
ascended. He's
He's got an
ascended.
empire. He's got
Hmm.
an empire.
right now he's
E-Man-
interviewing the actor who played Lamar Hoskins. So
Yeah.
That's
Mhm,
you're probably not far off the mark. No, look, for
Mhm.
people who have who've been following the show and the various series we've done here, E-Man is still with us in spirit. It is an open invitation for him to join any Friday night he's available.
Amen.
However, he is very, very busy, and he is also doing a live stream recap at 7 p.m. Central, which
Right.
I invite you
Crushing.
guys to check out beforehand.
Yeah, crushing content.
Yes, he is. He's very much in the life. Well, I think it's a prison reference. So I don't want to say that. No. And first of all, David, I thought you were going to say we got to pay our respects to DMX who passed away today, which we could
Or-
also do.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's probably
Save
bigger
that
news
for
than
your-
Prince Philip. So you know,
Yeah,
Save
well,
that for your
that's-
mutant show because that's the only X that's going to give it to you on that one. Come on now.
hey,
Save
wasn't he
that
in
for the
a,
reboot.
wasn't he in a Steven Seagal movie?
Yeah. What
Yeah, he
that,
was.
that,
The
um,
Was it hard
Ah.
something or
It was.
Maybe
it
he's
was-
compensating for
well,
something.
was it exit wounds? No. Anyway.
Yes, I think it
It
was.
was.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
a DMX savant. No, but
Right?
now Don, thank you. I want to see. It's too late now, but wouldn't
No.
have been cool to see DMX, like
Mhm.
you know, like
Where's-
he's a mutant.
Was he in a movie with Prince Philip? Though?
He's the
'Cause
power
that would be
broker
really
in
ironic.
Magipore. That's what he is.
I don't think he was in a movie with Prince Philip though.
No,
That would
no.
be like a,
They were on an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. That's what they were on together. That's it. That's it.
All right, so we've got the Falcon and the Winter
Memoriam, like
Soldier.
crazy.
Yes.
Okay.
So here we go, and we are talking spoilers. We're just opening it up. I mean, usually we do the spoiler-free recap, but because there is so much to talk in this hour, last week there was the debate about whether that was a filler episode. There's no question, like everything goes down in this
Mhm.
episode and opens things up to a really, whiz bang season or episodes 5 and 6 because we're episode 4 now.
Yeah.
It's almost over, guys.
I
Yeah.
know. I know.
All right. So we open up with Bucky talking with the member of the Dora Milaje. Okay. And she gives him basically 8 hours to find / turn over Baron
Full
Zemo.
workday.
Yeah. Right. Well, and they earn their pay. I don't know if she understands that Bucky knows exactly where Zemo is, or if it's just sort of like a tactic to like, I'm going to let you find out where he is, and if not,
Right.
then we're going to step in.
We're assuming she knows everything.
Agreed.
Okay.
be
Well,
in
there's a
Latvia
lot
in
of
the first
assumptions that I had before this episode that were kind of shattered, including the origins of our Mr. Johnny Walker. Because we were talking about before, did he, because he's been such a super soldier,
I see what you're saying.
had he been ingesting, or had he had the super soldier serum, I still can't talk, sort of thrust upon him, maybe unknowingly, but it turns out that he has not wittingly, before this episode, and we are talking spoilers again, read the banner,
True.
taken the super soldier serum. Now, that's not to say that he couldn't have been dosed with something in like low doses or in the military to enhance his abilities, because I still maintain that opening Good Morning America clip where he's handling the shield and like knocking people out. I'm like,
Right.
That's not you. I don't care how good an army grunt you are. You can't train to do that with that shield. That's special stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't
When
want to
he's
get Anthony Crispino in here, but
Maybe.
Predator.
That is superhuman stuff. I mean, that shield is heavy and he's boomeranging it around.
How do you know it's heavy?
It's vibranium.
Because I've seen it.
But it can be very light.
It knocks people through buildings and shit. Okay, that's how we know.
You broke the curse barrier. It's on now.
Yes, but it is my show. It is my show, as you pointed out. So,
Curses.
no. Okay. All right. Let's table that for now because there's a lot to get to before that.
I think John Walker visited Octavia Spencer in Thunder Force and got hooked up.
You know.
Okay, David.
Did he have the pills or did he have the injections, or was it thrust upon him?
David, just because I broke the curse barrier does not mean that you get to keep defiling this show with references to Thunder Force. By the way, keep an eye out on Monday for David and I's conversation about Thunder Force.
Excellent.
A therapy session / rant.
Yeah.
Actually,
very much.
my patrons voted for me to make that their exclusive
So
episode.
your Patreon members, your
that's why
Patreon
you don't sign
members,
up for Patreon. You're gonna
your
get shit on by
members hate
public
you.
people.
What you're saying.
Yep. That's how it goes. I've been on people's Patreon shows where they're like, "God damn it, why'd they vote for that?" I'm like, "You opened the vote."
Okay,
Good job,
hey,
guys.
Mark, here's a tip for you. Patreon viewing, get some Patron, and you might be okay. You need a lot of liquor to get through this thing.
Well, I've got some liquor for tonight, so there you go.
Oh, last glass of
What
liquor
are you
right
drinking
there.
tonight, there, buddy?
Well, it's a mix. It's a double shot of
Look at you go, Wisconsin out
Dr. McGillicuddy's cherry liqueur and just soda water, like
You're making that up, aren't you?
Like Soda Stream.
No.
Just something bubbled up, right?
Dr.
Yeah, just-
McGillicuddy's?
LaCroix.
Dr. McGillicuddy's makes not only they usually just make their
Peppermint vanilla.
peppermint vanilla. Yeah, they also make an apple pie now and a cherry
Yes.
and a grape flavor.
Is that
It's
Wisconsin
delicious.
centric or what?
No,
No.
You get that
No.
Benny's down the street, man.
But
All
the cherry Dr.
How did you know
McGillicuddy's.
Benny's is actually down the street? Are you
Am I
watching
going
me?
Wisconsin here? I'm going. Hey, I go.
Hey, there you go.
Hey.
I'm still,
Yeah.
Oh man, come on, PBR, get out.
Hey, guys,
When I'm done with that, it's
Yeah.
the Costco Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah,
so,
drinking
you know.
Johnny Walker for tonight's episode.
No,
I'm coming over to
Can't
Dog's
afford it.
house. Holy crap!
I go to Costco, man. It's like
I hope your kids are in bed.
I'm drinking Captain and Coke. So let's get back to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Captain Morgan.
Look at
I thought
that.
Bloody Shield was gonna be the show title. Now it's Captain and Coke, right? there.
Captain.
No,
and
actually,
Coke.
this is
There you
just
go.
plain old coffee because I've been up since 4:00 in the morning. I
Not
woke up.
so.
I started my day
So-
with Thunder Force.
So my question is, do you guys think that the Dora Milaje and AO, do you think they like, you know, they're very much, it seems, into being very well rounded in what's going on in the world, and obviously they helped out, you know, Bucky. Do you think that they maybe put a tracker on that arm?
Hell yes. Hell yes.
Well, I know that, and this is something it's disturbing, and I wonder if this is going to pop up in future Black Panther sequels or even
No
later
pun
on in the
intended.
series.
Mhm.
Nice. And we are talking spoilers here. So if you haven't watched the new episode, turn back. No, but here's the thing.
Pop out,
Right.
yeah.
Well, during that fight in the climax, or one of the 7 climaxes in this movie or the TV show episode.
Stick to the show, not your feelings. Okay.
Well, no, I'm saying it's good. I loved this episode. That's not a criticism that there are 7 climaxes here because it's all good, but not like that, Don.
Okay,
Keep your
just
hands
check.
where I can see them. No, but so AO, she's fighting Bucky, and she does some almost like pressing keys on a keyboard, like very lightly.
Yeah.
She detaches his arm.
I
and
love
it
his
falls to the
She
floor.
cosmic keyed his arm.
I love
Yeah,
his
she
face.
did.
I love this face. That's almost like the director saying, "We're not going to tell him that we're taking off his arm in this scene, and it's just going to be natural that his arm's going to fall." I mean, we know it's CGI.
Hey, Sebastian, just tuck your arm in your shirt. Oh, why? No,
Right.
no reason.
But his face is just like a little boy who somebody took away his toy. It's like,
Yeah, like his ice cream cone fell on the pavement. Like, damn it!
I didn't know that could happen.
Yeah,
So,
it would have been funnier
neither
if
did we.
Rocket Raccoon was there to take it.
I was gonna say,
Give me that
Rocket
on.
Raccoon is taking notes.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh,
He's like,
so how? What was
What's the
that
key
button
sequence
pressed
again? Up, down, right. Yep.
I almost guarantee that, if, when all this is over, assuming Bucky's still alive and he has connections back at S.H.I.E.L.D. with the government, they're going to fix that problem because that is too big a weakness for anybody to maintain.
No, you got to know the combination. So
Good luck.
No, I was saying if he ever gets on the wrong side of the Wakandans or someone who can get the information on that text, say a Baron Zemo type dude, that could be a big handicap, right? But she unlocks the arm and it falls off, which means that when Bucky was in Wakanda and they were helping him, they were boosting him back up. He's the white wolf or whatever.
Yep.
It's not a completely benevolent act. They're it's almost like talk of like implanting spyware and technology that gets sold to people, and then some people can be tracked by corporations, right? That's kind of the same thing. Yeah. And then she also makes a mention later on when someone says you have no jurisdiction here, and she says the Dora Milaje have jurisdiction wherever the Dora Milaje happen to be. I'm like, that goes counter to everything that we hold dear.
If they don't announce the series within 24 hours of this episode, they're just dropping the ball. I mean,
Wakandan series,
T'Challa's Angels.
Yes,
sure. Why not?
They've been talking about, like, I think after Black Panther came out, there was a whole. I don't know if it was called World of Wakanda comic series or something like that. And it was really basically the Dora Milaje and like certain Marvel characters as guest stars, like Spider-Man and stuff like that. And it was great, and I could totally see maybe, because they have at the end of Black Panther, because they have kind of outreaches in different countries, you could totally see the Dora Milaje maybe checking up on progress or whatever. I mean, I would love to. I think Ao, I mean, just
can carry on.
I don't know if she's showing up in the next 2 episodes, but I mean, she's just I mean, she's just got a great presence, and she's formidable, and I could see her, carrying a show, even if it's a limited series like this. That's fine.
Would that be a place where I don't know where they're going with Black Panther 2? Have they teased story possibilities? Like, I would love to see a show like that, like build the Atlantean conflict with Namor, like build that up without getting to the big showdown that would likely be between character and character.
I mean, Coogler has mentioned that they have been in talks about kind of like a World of Wakanda type of series for Disney Plus. Awesome. And they did kind of tease at Namor for Black Panther 2, like introducing him, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. That or Doctor Doom. Get some Latveria.
Totally.
Going,
Yeah. I mean, well, there's all sorts of possibilities that we've seen kind of seeds planted in this particular episode. We get a little bit more with our Karli Morgenthau character and some wonderful heady debates between she and Sam on the righteousness of her cause and his trying to defend sort of American corporate imperialism while also acknowledging that there's some problems. We get some really good insight into like what this what the flag smashers are about. I think they've touched on it in previous episodes, but here it really feels personal. Like this group of people, they went to pitch in after half the world disappeared. They kind of took up new residence in these places that were abandoned because folks had just been snapped. But then when they all get blipped and they come back, they suddenly find themselves out on the street. Now, the questions are, rights of, almost like squatters' rights on steroids. Like if I come back to my house after 5 years, is it still my house if someone's living there because they never thought I was going to come back? I mean, you could almost do like a Law and Order or a courtroom drama TV series about like rights, the blip snap rights.
Watch that be the crux of She-Hulk because she's a lawyer.
Oh my god,
that would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
it would be
I don't know
totally
if that would be
compelling
very
too.
good. You think, if that's the post-blip world that Jennifer Walker has to take care of, or
she would have a lot of clients.
She'd have a lot of clients. Yeah, you could play a superhero angle too of people impacted by superheroes, and some superheroes go on trial too.
Yeah,
Matt
Murdock.
That property damage or whatever you want.
No, but I'm with you, Ian. This episode really fleshed out where Karli Morgenthau is coming from, and where, like you said, there a lot more heart got involved in this conflict, and it's really impressive how well they've. I mean, the violent acts are still there, of course, but they've done such a good job, and maybe it's because of the central actress, but they've done a very good job of making not just a compelling villain, but a convincing one. Like, I know there are the fanboys out there who really love, like, oh, Thanos was right and stuff like that, while it's still completely, I'm not one of those people, but I know there are people who are. But this is a legit one where you can go, you know what? She's not that far off. Is it the methods you can question the way that Sam is doing? And I love that you actually get a hero or two to be like, you know what? You're right. How often do we see that in a movie that doesn't turn that into a cheesy moment? It turns it into a spine strengthening moment, and you got that here.
Yeah.
Well, it's complicated, right? Because the people who were displaced after the blip, we don't know all of their stories, but they weren't living in these places beforehand, right? So if I've got my house and I get taken away for 5 years and someone moves into my house, I don't know who that person is. They didn't work to get my house. I don't know if they had their own kind of deal going on, or if they're just, kids who are like, hey, free house. So then it becomes a matter of, well, okay, I'm back now. I built this house, or I paid for whoever. Now you can leave and go make your own way. Now that's sounds heartless and everything, but you have to consider that both people on the sides of that equation have, rights. They've got points of view that need to be hashed out in perhaps a She-Hulk courtroom. To Sam's point, he's like, I agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree with the way you're working it out.
Right,
and it's frustrating because the blip happened immediately. Everybody came back at the same time. So these are problems that can take years to work out. But when you're talking about billions of people reappearing on the planet, you don't really have years to build that infrastructure. So I think we're seeing the world kind of coming apart and everything going mad. This episode made me appreciate what happened more to Sharon Carter and the mess that she was caught up in even before this stuff happened. So she's involved in a conflict that's, several layers deeper than we even know.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that there's just 2 hours left. Less than that.
I think they're going to pull a 6-hour finale.
Less than that. I mean, and we haven't had any end credit stingers or anything like WandaVision. And I guess with the flow of this story, I guess you don't really need it. I mean, remember when this show was announced and we thought Zemo was going to be the villain? And so now, I mean, yes, of course, he's kind of on the fence, and he's the MVP of this series, in my opinion. Just to follow him has just been fantastic. And just the way. This is a great example for a series like this, an episodic MCU, to give an actor like Daniel Brühl time to kind of stretch his chops and really explore Zemo has been fantastic. And this is what you want a series to do. I'm really curious to see, what's going to play, how everything's going to play out here. I recently saw an interview with the actress, I forget her name, who plays Karli. She was saying that her favorite episode is episode 6. So, that she gets to do a lot. And this episode is a lot. There's a lot going on. It's very heavy. It got great balance. There's I don't know, maybe between this and Civil War, I don't know how many stair fights we can have. But you know,
Right.
talking about staircases, not like staring at each other. But yeah, I love the line by John Walker where he's saying, you know, what is it with knives, you know? But I think that there's some good balance, like Ian was saying, like that great conversation between Sam and Karli. That was really good. Or even Karli and her kind of right-hand man in the cemetery. That was a great conversation too about Captain America and what he stands for and the shield. Yeah. And it really broadened how we understand kind of in a worldly level how the shield is viewed. You know, and it's not just, you know, USA, America, rah, rah, rah. Yeah. But, you know, the shield is a symbol worldwide, and it has been for decades because of Steve. And, you know, I was reading recently how, you know, like the shadow of Steve Rogers really, you know, echoes on this episode. Well, it's the whole series, really. And that's what we've been kind of, you know, talking about is that it's hard to live up to Steve Rogers, you know, but and there I think even in this episode, you know,
they said there's never been another one.
Yeah, there's never been another one. Well, you know, kind of duh, but there's never going to be another one like him. I mean, that's why he was chosen. That's why he was special, and that's why this serum didn't affect him the way it did, because he started out as Stanley Tucci's great character Erskine said, "You are a good man," and that's why you were chosen. And of course, at the end of Endgame, what does Steve say to Sam Wilson? You're a good man. Yeah. So, you know, it's very interesting to see how these themes are playing out, even in just like conversations.
Yeah, and it's also the shield is a symbol, but it's a symbol whose significance changes. From person to person, and even over time, as we saw in that cemetery conversation, because you know one of the members of the Flag Smashers used to be a fan of Captain America,
and then he gets smashed by the shield. So. it comes full
circle. We're just jumping right into it, aren't we?
It just comes full circle like the shield. No, I love bookends like that. I actually like. Yeah. I love when a story does that sort of thing, because especially within the context of what we've got going on here. And as you guys mentioned, the themes, the fact that here is a guy who idolized the shield because of Steve Rogers. And then in the end, his brains are on the shield, more or less, thanks to John Walker, who is a product of the shield. I mean, it really actually centers around the shield here, if you look at it, because he's a product of the shield. He's there because they were looking for someone to carry the shield, which, as you guys said, is a symbol, you know. And then Karli even mentions how, you know, maybe the shield should be destroyed because no one's going to be a Steve Rogers, you know. And then we even get,
or even just Zemo crushing the serum instead of taking serum, you know, like I did not see that coming.
Right. You know? Well, I mean, he's got a thing against, you know, he's always had a thing against the super soldiers, and so him crushing the serum wasn't that, you know, I kind of expected him to, because he's just against super soldiers. He's no, you guys are unnatural. But you know, the whole thing with the shield, you even had that conversation between Battlestar and Cap at the table, where Battlestar is mentioning how, he'd take the serum, and it looks like the super soldier serum just makes you more of what you are, whether or not that's confirmed of an actual side effect or just his observation. So Steve Rogers was even more of the Boy Scout because he was a Boy Scout to begin with. Johnny Walker wasn't, which led me to think that Johnny Walker at some point has been given or dosed some kind of super serum, possibly not the same kind, but something.
I don't think so. I think he was mentioning that, and it was great considering what eventually happens to him, for him to have that moment. I think he was mentioning that because a lot of times we've seen this in other stories, be it, you know, literature or other movies, where when you're given power, and that's what he says, is all it does is really amplify what is already there. You know, and that's why Steve Rogers was chosen, because he was a good guy and he was given this serum, and we knew that he was going to do good things because of his heart. And remember when we first, I think it was episode 2, when we first met John Walker, and Lamar was like, man, you can't just go around hitting your way into things, punching your way through this. The government chose John Walker because of his accolades and because of his valor in battle and everything, but that doesn't mean he's got the best wherewithal mentally or the best heart.
Well, and you got to wonder about that, because he was selected, as you mentioned, by the government. They run profiles on people, especially their symbols. So it's entirely possible you get to the end of this series, or maybe it has tendrils in other movies and TV shows we haven't seen yet. But could it be that Johnny Walker was chosen because he was off balance, because he was going to become a completely different kind of Captain America, one for the new century, a door-kicking, world policer, right?
I agree.
He just didn't happen to know it. Because think about it, when Sam gave up the shield, it's a big move, but if the government had really wanted to move forward with this program, they could have said, all right, Sam, I understand your decision. Do you have any recommendations? Who do you think is pure of heart?
Kicker? Yeah. Well, I mean, at every step of the way, we've seen through this whole MCU series, like the superheroes, the metahumans, whatever we get to call them, they don't have very many fans in the defense area or government. Look at the way Ross has chased them. Look at the way the Sokovia Accords have handcuffed them. Look at the way Sword has messed in WandaVision. Like, how many people are in their court other than a fringe person here, a fringe person there, and we don't even know if Sharon's all the way in their court, other than just being a friendly help, unless it motivates her, because she's still the power broker. So like, I see all that and go, yeah, I'm with Ian. Like, I don't think they want a altruistic Boy Scout. They want their guy, and their guy, like America, and that's probably the social commentary that people want to put on here. America is a go get mine, door kicking, police force of the world, and that's what they would want. That, I'm not saying that's a Don Rumsfeld post Bush kind of way of thinking, but it's in that ballpark of that's the dominance that America wants, and you get that from Oorah. You don't get that from, well, hold on, I'm a heartfelt nice guy from Brooklyn. None of that comes there. So I know we think it's bass backwards, but it's completely in character in a way to what the government is in this world.
Yeah. Well, and he's more controllable. I honestly think they picked these two. They picked these two because of the dynamic between him and I keep calling him Battlestar Lamar. Yeah. The dynamic between them, because he always seems to be the handler for John, and if whoever was trying to pick the next Cap, they're like, oh, these two go together. We're going to give this guy the Cap shield. He's going to have his buddy come along with him. We know his buddy can put him in check when he absolutely needs to. But also, we know what triggers this guy, so we could control him if they know what triggers him. Steve, they couldn't, because they tried with the Wachovia records. He's like, no, I'm a good guy. I'm going to go wherever I freaking need to be. I don't care. What about borders? Whereas if you get this guy, they're like, they trigger him because he believes in borders. They go, hey, that guy over the border killed a bunch of children. Go get him. All right, yeah. Whereas Steve might go, are you sure? Have we seen evidence? Johnny Walker just like, okay, I'll go do it. And then Battlestar comes along and goes, okay, no, you beat him enough. Let's go away now.
Yeah. And then that pre-confrontation convo when they're about to come to the before Sam goes in to talk to Karli, which was a great scene, but that whole measure up the situation conversation with Zemo there
between
with John,
the four of them.
Oh yeah, but with John ready to balls in there and go and all that, even that combo lets you know where that guy's coming from, and it's what Ian's saying. It's a different guy,
I think this episode, out of all of them that we've seen has the best combination of action sequences and kind of downtime conversations, which is it doesn't really feel downtime because it's still meaty conversations.
Oh yeah.
And it's just nonstop, and also humor. When the Dora Milaje comes in, Zemo's just drinking and steps out, and
Tom and Jerry's his way out of there.
It's great timing. I mean, everything is just really well done.
Well, and I like that we get. Well, first, I want to bring up a comment from Sejua because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about. Certainly, America is a military empire. From an outsider perspective, non-American, we are the new Rome.
That's us.
Yeah.
When we fall, we will fall hard.
Yeah.
Well,
whether we admit it or not.
Well, I don't. Well, that's the thing is I don't know. Oh wait, hold on a second. Yeah, we got part 2.
This is good.
America has been at war worldwide or locally every year except 5 maybe of the country's existence. So a militant cap would be an honest movie, really. Yeah, that's very true. I will like to say that unfortunately, America is not unique. There are certainly other war-torn imperialist countries around the world.
True.
And the idea of America falling, sure, it's a possibility. I'm not a fan of looking back at history as a predictor of future events, because it's entirely possible that we will go on forever, or we're going to mutate or change or become something different. It's very complicated. And that's one of the things I love about this series, is because it's like a whole bunch of great philosophical, political conversations from many different perspectives smashing together with the great metaphor of the snap and the blip. You've got people coming in to fill these vacuums of power, but then they're pushed out through no fault of their own. And, what kind of a world can we pick up and make after this? Is there a possibility to unify these different perspectives? Because right now it's looking pretty bleak, right?
Yeah.
How do you reconcile with the flag smashers? And it's also, with Karli and her gang, there's that great scene where, I don't know if it was by the cemetery. There was a bunch of them there kind of hang out by the water. It was like a really gray and cold day, and they're getting news reports of their exploits gaining favor in the public. They're getting more people sympathetic to them. And it's like, great, we are sort of the tip of the spear of this rising movement, and yet we're still homeless. We're still hanging out outside because we have nowhere to really stay. They're having to be hidden and go place to place during their, the fomenting of the revolution.
They need a Patreon.
Well, never.
Yes, they do.
Don't forget that
GoFundMe page.
Don't forget that news report. That news report. They talk about how she blew away a few innocent people in her explosion, including a guy with a couple kids who just started working there. And the news reporter says, even with that in mind, they're gaining supporters.
Yeah.
So this is, whereas we're just getting a little microscope on this one group. This isn't just the mentality of this one group. We've got more people around the globe having this blip snap mentality.
And that
is, an interesting dynamic in how that will play against your superheroes too, on who does the superhero stand for? Are you just a good guy? Or are you with a specific country? Or, there's a lot of threads just coming out of watching this one group, when we realize it's more than just about this one group. They're just a representation of one perspective of this world. And we get Sam, who I love the scene where they pull from the original time we saw him giving consultation and to soldiers who have been through it.
Yep.
He's back to that, and that's one of my favorite scenes of this series, was him talking to Karli, and he almost had her convinced until good old Johnny Walker took his shot. He almost had her convinced, which was even better, because here we have a superhero, Sam, who can kick ass, who's got we love him,
sure,
but we show that there's another way he could possibly not defeat, but defuse a villain.
Save the day.
Save the day without having to use his wings. He's just sitting there going, look, doing what he has his strength to be. And I love that moment, because it's showing a number of things with these characters,
And no one was named Martha, which was the best part. No, I'll say another thing about the just the angle of oh gosh, I had an idea and then it left my head.
Sorry.
No. The other thing about expectations and where this series was going for is, I admit I was thinking, to kind of call all the way back to where we started this episode, but like when we thought about where this show could go, and we, David thought Zemo was going to be the big villain, or just all that. I thought we were going to get a very domestic, BLM kind of story about a black man assuming the mantle. Yeah. And unless they really rush the last 2 hours, we're not going to get that. You know, I think that'd be stuffing way too much into where they're going. Obviously, putting his sister in peril is enough, but without going there. But, I know where I'm going. But no, where this will escalate further with the sympathetic villains and all that is easily what's going to happen of the fallout of the final moments of this episode. Because with everyone with a cell phone standing there capturing it, what do you have? You have these sympathetic, unarmed, I don't want to say vigilante, but just freedom fighter getting beat to death and killed, publicly by the symbol of America.
Decapitated, we assume.
Oh my goodness. So
yeah.
It's gonna, like, the fallout coming is gonna be bigger than anything with Sam and Bucky right now. Like, oh boy.
Well, I mean, I don't know if the world really knows that, Bucky and Sam are involved in this new Cap.
Right.
So it's like they could have easily like backed out into the alley, after that moment.
Well, but I think I would imagine there's going to be some suspicion, some askance views, because they were associated with Captain America. Now, because from the person watching television's point of view, they saw, the Avengers. They probably saw Bucky and Falcon hang out with Cap in some capacity. I would imagine. It's weird because these movies are so insular in some way. I don't really know what the public would have seen of the Avengers exploits. We don't have the 20 or 30 years of comics lore of them flying around cities and stuff, right? But let's just assume they know about them. They might just assume, okay, Cap is presumed dead. Steve Rogers. There's a new guy. There's a new Captain America. So he's probably just friends with, Bucky and Falcon. And all of a sudden,
he must be
Captain America. Yeah, Captain America just murdered somebody. I wonder if there are people out there, because there are clueless folks who might not even realize that Steve Rogers is no longer Captain America. Like, oh my God, Steve Rogers murdered somebody on TV.
I'm sure they could, just as they assume Roger Ebert still does reviews.
He doesn't. No,
I admit it's weird seeing like on Facebook. I'll see Roger Ebert and a link to a review. I'm like, wait, what?
And then I'm like, oh, Peter. Oh shit, thanks, Peter. And all of our mutual friends. But I digress. No, but there's enough. The thing is, there's enough cell phone cameras there. They're gonna be like, oh look, there's Sam Wilson over there too.
Right.
What's he doing here? Is that Bucky Barnes? Shit will hit the fan to all three of them easily.
Well. And also, Karli was there in the crowd. So what if the narrative becomes like the Avengers held back this freedom fighting, lady while Captain America murdered her best friend, or something like that? There's infinite ways that this can go, and it's a great cliffhanger. Particularly that last image of Cap, the worm's eye view of him with the blood and the brains, as Mark put it, on the shield. That's a comic book cover, right?
I mean, that's a great way to end a comic. Like, big time credit to Wyatt Russell. I know he's getting death threats.
He's getting murdered by the family. But,
I
mean, he has a very complicated part to play, and I admire.
Come on, people.
He's sticking it. He's doing great.
Look, Mike Crowley couldn't be here tonight. He'll be back with us next week, I think. But we had a talk about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, a few nights ago. Probably the fourth or fifth and last time I'm going to talk about that movie on a podcast. I vowed. But we were talking about the heel turn of Anakin Skywalker, how it's happened so quickly in that movie over the course of 2.5 hours. It's just really unconvincing. In the probably 20 minutes that John Walker takes up of this nearly hour-long episode, there is more of a convincing turn to the dark side here, because you managed to squeeze in those layers of gray. Sure, we had a few minutes in the previous episode, but in this episode, you see him make a really rash decision based on what he thought was the right thing to do, busting in and taking Karli into custody to try and find out what she knows. That went south. The Dora Milaje show up. They humiliate him. He's left basically crawling out of the room, with his tail between his legs.
Super soldiers.
Yeah.
But the easy move would have just been to have him go right from that to, well, I've got the Super Soldier Serum, this vial in my pocket. I'm going to take it and screw you guys. But they insert that scene in the mall where he's talking to Lamar, and it's through that conversation where he's like, you can see the wheels turning in his head. Like, I got my ass handed to me, but on the other hand, I'm still trying to do the right thing, but I'm outmatched against these superpowered people. I have no choice. Yeah. Right. And he doesn't know really what the effect's going to be. He still thinks, like all great villains do, that he's the hero of his own story. So he's like, I can take this, I can make it work, and I can help a lot of people. As I think we've seen in that final extended battle, it does bring out the worst aspects of his nature. He's kind of showing off while he's fighting. He kind of disregards Sam. I think he's like, what the hell did you do? And, he's like, I'll deal with you later. And he goes out and he does that thing in the street.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of great, not exactly hero, but fallen man stuff going on in this episode that I think it'll be hard to top. I think from a character development standpoint going forward.
That's why he's my MVP. The way David's talking about, Daniel Bruhl. I'll take Wyatt Russell because he's got the hardest job in the whole series.
I agree with you. I would say actor-wise, Wyatt Russell's the MVP. Character-wise, Zemo's the MVP.
I'll tip my hand to that,
and it's weird to say that in a series called Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I know.
Look, I mean, Mackie and Stan are great. Okay,
they're steady,
and I think some of the work in this episode between those two guys are great. It's just maybe we're taking them for granted. Maybe we're just used to them being good in their roles. But just to see such variety in characters with Bruhl and Russell is kind of invigorating as a viewer. Just to like, wow, I mean, they're really going there. I mean, if you look at the difference between like Russell and Bruhl's character, it's like night and day. I mean, Bruhl's playing this Zemo kind of squirrely character, kind of like, somewhat twirling his mustache, somewhat, like the whole Turkish delight thing was just amazing. It was great.
That was awesome.
And then just, his escape El Chapo fashion was fantastic. But, and then just to see Russell just kind of dealing with this, kind of like wounded ego, kind of like not feeling like he's going to be worthy in any situation unless he takes this serum. It's like, man, I mean, and of course, in those final moments is like, you hear it in the audio, just like him breathing and, even like he's got a lot more, whiskers, kind of like me, just like, it's like, man, this is taking a toll on him and he's not even like really admitting it.
Now, here's something I noticed in addition to the stubble, because it very much has that kind of Superman 3 thing where he goes to the dark side. And he's no longer the clean-shaven symbol of justice.
Right.
There's right before he goes out into the street and he's wrestling with people, when he goes to kind of hold Lamar and find out if he's still alive, we see that just above his ear, there's blood running down his face. Now, did he get is that from an injury that he had sustained recently, or because I'm wondering where that injury came from, if that's some kind of a weird side effect of the serum, like is he bleeding from somewhere?
Well, he had been fighting people, so it could very well just have
been just not very protected underneath that
because
I guess it's a leather helmet pretty much.
It's only a leather, it's not like it's actual metal helmet or anything.
Yeah, and the ear is
armor, so
it's just it's a unique place, because usually you'll see like it running down the nose or the bleeding lip or something. This is the ear, so it's just kind of a fun detail of like you don't really think about this stuff in the movie.
Man, that let's talk about that moment with Lamar, because that was a showstopper for everybody in that room. And it's like that was not intended. That was an accident. That was huge. And I think that was the impetus that had to kick John Walker into the next two episodes, let's say, because it's like, we already knew that he had the propensity to go there, Walker, to be on this kind of, volatile dark side. But man, that was his, like I said before in other episodes, that was his Jiminy Cricket. And now
take that away.
Taken out.
Yeah.
And I credit to again, the actress who plays Karli Morgenthau, it's Kelly something. I should know this, but the look on her face, and then she just bolts for it.
Erin
Kellyman. Okay, thank you. It's almost like the kind of the 9/11 moment where she flew a plane into Johnny Walker's, the heart of his city, and then that moment of stunned silence, like, oh my God, this is coming together, but I'm not quite ready for the repercussions. She just gets the hell out of there because she knows that the full force of America is about to come after her and everybody she loves. And indeed, that's what we get. but the fact that there's so much moral gray area in this show, as we talked about earlier, what are the repercussions of this, all this being captured on camera? Because you can't even just go and explain like, well, I was tracking down these terrorist groups, because they have a very popular following. There's a lot of sympathetic people because they do have a point of view that is not entirely wrong.
And
it's
when
not
you think
something
about
you can easily consume.
And when you think about it, the government's going to find out what happened through social media. I mean, that stuff's going to post automatically.
Yeah,
and I hope, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I hope episode 5 opens up that way with, like, I don't know, either Thunderbolt Ross or whatever, just like them.
Yeah.
How do we find this out on Twitter? You know, what's going on here? This is on TikTok. You know?
A TikTok of just like Cap going,
yeah. I mean,
over and over again.
You think about it, all those phones out there, and first, of course, it bugged me that they were holding their phones like this instead of this. I'm like, but whatever, you know, it just doesn't hold well on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, it's
neither do we.
I'm glad that they're really engaged and touching into this whole, you know, aspect that everything can be downloaded like that, and you can't tell me that, you know, the government's not going to find out through social media that this happened.
He's screwed
first.
That's how he'll lose the shield.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely. He's
for sure.
But they aren't going to fire him, because once they find out he has the Super Soldier Serum, that's where he just stays in employed.
He'll go rogue, but or he'll just be the door kicker. Yes,
right. The government will say, "Oh, he will be punished or whatever," and then he gets put into a secret program or just used as a black ops type of guy or whatever, because he's super. You know, kind of like they wanted to use Isaiah. Now they've got a new super soldier that they could use. They know for sure is a super soldier, or will know soon enough. And I can't see them just locking him away. They're going to be able to. They're going to want to use him, especially
spin will be there.
Yeah, the spin will be there. He won't be Cap. They'll discipline him, but on the backside, he'll be used still as U.S. agent or whatever. As a,
I'm gonna take the different tack on this. I think he stays Captain America because of what we were talking about earlier with the government's intent in bringing this particular guy on. Yeah, it looks bad, but we're talking about spin and media perception. If the government is worried about the flag smashers, because they are, by definition, they want to tear down the institution. They want to, quote unquote, get things back to where they were, but that's not really what they want. Because
and painting them as such, totally. Yeah.
Right, because the things the way they were was the system that allowed them to get into the predicament where they are now, essentially. But whether that's democracy, capitalism, whatever you want to call it. So I figure the government's going to find some way to spin this and say, yeah, he murdered a guy in cold blood, but here's his profile of terrorist activity. All the kids that they blew up along the way and all this other stuff. We've seen this happen in real life.
Going to be there.
They just had a building blow up where they were reporting about innocent people dying in an explosion at a supply depot. All they got to do is spit it and show evidence that he was there, or just say he was there.
He broke up he stopped the next attempt that was going to kill, like they're going to blow up 3 hospitals with 7,000 people in them or something.
Right. And you'll get the people who will want to believe, and then those who doubted already have doubted anyway before he ever killed anyone. So in the end, you're right. He may actually, now that you're talking about it, he may stay Captain America, and they just spin it and it becomes just an incident.
The guy that he killed, they could come up with all this. Yeah, well, he had convictions and he was, a rapist or whatever. It's like they could have done like they do with everything, right?
He was there. He was there at the explosion when the innocents. They don't have to say he exploded, but we have security footage of he was one of the people who was at the building supply depot that blew it up, and Cap was taking care of it.
And. Well, and this brings us back to Don, what you were talking about with the whole, we started off with this being a very much domestic, an American-centric show with the social issues. I wonder if at the end of episode 6 it ends up back here, because
I think so.
That's my theory about Johnny Walker. He might have the shield taken away from him, or Sam could somehow get the shield, at the end of this season and have to come back to America and deal with those consequences, which I'd love to see. There's no losing
It's
situation
a
in here as
great
far as
sequel if we ever
possibilities.
get there. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I wonder if somebody like, Jim Rhodes, Don Cheadle's character, can, play out later on in this, in the next 2 episodes, because like, obviously this footage is going to track, globally, and, somebody's got to come and help these 2 guys out, unless, obviously, Sharon Carter's involved and the Dora Milaje, but, there's got to be more. This whole footage thing is going to be building more awareness, and between that conversation that Rhodes had with Wilson in the Smithsonian, it's like, I'm wondering if something's going to happen where it's like, man, I think I could help you out here, Sam, and either vouch for him or armor up or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
that would be fun to see Rhodey take on to get back into the suit again. Speaking of the suit, we mentioned some of the fight sequences and the action sequences. That the fight that led up to Lamar's death was pretty spectacular, because you've got Sam in the Falcon outfit using it again very creatively.
Yeah.
I love how he's using the jetpack to burn the guy to get him off him.
Yeah.
I mean, but he showed restraint. John Walker would not, if he had that jetpack, he would have just barbecued the dude. Sam just used that as a defensive mechanism. Like, I gotta get you off, just enough. But yeah, that's the choreography. Even though I know it's wire fu and people like jumping and doing these crazy feats, it's still really cool to see, especially on a television program.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I do want to jump in, because from several minutes ago, Sejua left some good comments here. America is flexible, may never fall, and even if eventually China and India become more powerful due to sheer population size, U.S. will most likely be powerful for thousands of years.
I agree with that.
I don't know if that's supposed to be comforting or a warning.
No, I'm with, as the socialist teacher in the room, we will get passed by China and India. It's just a matter of time. Now, we'll still hold our own. It's not like we'll just turn into what England is now. Like, we'll be very sustained doing our thing and still plenty rough and tough.
Or our ego will take over and we'll just be in denial.
Well, we just had 4 years where I thought ego would sink us. So I'm glad we're out of that.
Well, Rome took a very long time to fall, become not significant in world politics, and Italy to this day is up and running, as to Don's point. So, yeah,
I'd be okay being just that, just a solid place to be instead of being the pusher and the leader. I'd be
the problem though is that the United States is much bigger than Italy. So you can have a small country just getting by, being in league with the dominant cultural superpower. Because I mean, if you look at China is not, they don't have Western values to be, it would be a major conflict and a source of contention. So it'd be interesting to see where things go, or even the creation of an entirely new philosophy that somehow blends all of these things together. I mean, what the hell would that even look like? What I love about this show is it inspires these kinds of, it's a comic book show, as my Joel Schumacher impression. It's a comic book movie, but that's why when people decry comics, I'm like, there's so much richness to be mined here and so many things to talk about. They hit to real world issues.
And those,
I mean, those who decry them haven't read them. So
no, and that's the thing, like, because the comics they come from is long form storytelling, and now that we're getting these 6 and 8 episode TV series, we're not overstuffing movies. We're doing long form storytelling. Like, this is going to be such a boom. And I guess we still had that anyway on Netflix with Daredevil and the attempts that they've done as well, where we've gotten samples of this, but now you put some more flashy characters in there and look what they can do when given a longer platform. Like, I don't see this gravy train ending anytime soon. The success of this looks too good right now.
Well, I think,
and they'll find critical success to go with it too. Like, I'm not saying Elizabeth Olsen's going to win the Emmy next year, but watch her be nominated, and then that's enough for people to go. That's enough for people to be like, oh, look, it's the glass ceiling that Heath Ledger broke in with the Oscars, that now we have the same thing with TV. So people will find these things to be important more than, I mean, problem is there's still the militant versions of people like us who, you know, are sending death threats to Wyatt Russell that don't need to, who just can't compartmentalize this for the values that it is versus the entertainment that it is. And
They need help.
I'll throw it out there.
ever?
I know it's blasphemy on this show, but I will say that
get my drink ready.
Here, you get your drink ready. I will say it's not always been executed perfectly, but they do have bright points. CW did show though that long form comic book shows, even when you had the Daredevil and that, they showed though that these characters actually fit a better you can do more with them. I mean, let's face it, as much as people crap on it being whatever teen DC whatever, the when they do the crossovers,
it was great.
Those are awesome episodes. Those were really cool, seeing these characters together, and the fact that they were able to craft it through this long form stuff. Like my favorite is still Legends of Tomorrow. I could watch that every day.
We all know that DC has made incredible, strength, just great TV shows on CW compared to their.
I'll go further back than that. I'll go further back to that to help mark out the DC Batman animated series is the best storytelling version of Batman we will ever have.
Right. Yeah. And the only reason I brought that up was that it kind of laid groundwork, and I think that helped give some confidence so that we could get these long form stories now from Marvel, and that because they
walk so we can run.
They see it and they do it better. They're doing it better than CW ended up doing it with their long form stuff. They start out strong and kind of taper off with their stuff. I fully admit it, but what I'm just saying that groundwork in that, I mean, comics in general, these characters fit longer form stuff. One of the complaints that many critics have with comic book movies, not just Marvel, just any comic book movie, is how bloated they are and how long they end up being, because you're trying to compact, like you guys say, a year's story into 2.5 hours, 2 hours, and there's no way you're going to do it justice without leaving something out that's going to be a head scratching moment then in the film. Whereas you get these 6-8 episodes, you got that time to breathe, you can explore it, or like this, we get world building. Falcon and Winter Soldier isn't really about Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't think that never was. What it was going to do is introduce you, especially when you guys were saying this was supposed to be before WandaVision. It's to introduce you to, here's what's been going on the rest of the world after the movies. By the way, there's more than just the cinematic screen that you've seen. There's humans out here, and here's what's going on. And that's what this series really is doing, is using the hook of Bucky and Falcon, kind of like a horror stunt casting film. You're bringing the fans in to watch it, but now we're actually focused on Zemo and Io and all these other characters. And suddenly we're like more interested in those than the two title characters, because we've seen them. We've seen them.
Well, that's an excellent point. And the way that we still have 2 episodes left, so it's possible this falls off a cliff. But what I'm thinking is it's 6 episodes. This is a 3-hour movie essentially, which is what Avengers Endgame was kind of. So I wonder if this would have worked if it had been just compressed into one 3-hour movie, because it's episodic, but it's not
like the breaks.
I think it does. There is a nice flow to it. So I wonder if future filmmakers who are working for these studios can take a lesson from the structure and the stories that are being told on these TV series. Let's say that we have more 6 instead of saying, okay, Marvel's like, okay, we need another 3-hour superhero movie. Instead of thinking, how am I going to write this movie? Think, how do I write a really solid 6-episode miniseries that we then turn into a movie? Like, just approach it from a different way. So you get all those stories and character beats and country hopping and adventure, but also the heart and the brains without leaving anything out.
I mean, go ahead.
No, but like, I'm not the TV guy that you guys are in terms of well versed with what cable. I mean, but I feel like the other walk so they can run thing has been the last 10-15 years of cable television, where we have cinematic level television. Like the CW still, to its credit in world building and in character development, is doing great work. But like They don't have HBO's budget to make things look really fucking good. So like I think of like Game of Thrones and examples like that where that is cinematic television. That is big budget, legit television, but they're taking their dear sweet time with 10 hours of series and seasons and such. Those, I mean, watching, I have to think that there's a little bit of the blueprint that comes from that too, because as much as we're talking about making a 6-hour movie, but that just gets chopped into television, the only way you can do that is because it's been done before in bigger, longer, and bolder places. Now, I would love a day with the same way Mark would, where instead of being scattered to the wind the way DC and Warner has done it, if wish they can meld what they do great in all those places into one universe. Like I like the CW shows. I wanted Tom Welling to be Superman and not just stop being Smallville. Like, go ahead and ascend him. He's ready. Let's go. You've built a great character. Go let him take the next step. I know the rules of that show. We're never going to let that happen. But like, I'm at that point of like, because of what the CW has done, like, go ahead and put Grant Gustin in these movies and not Ezra Miller. Go ahead. Yeah. Like, I'm my man crush for Tyler Hoechlin is huge. Let him have a Superman movie. You know, why not build what's working for you instead of throwing shit to the wall to see what sticks with Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder and Jeff Johns and all the other people who F up the movies. So you've got something that's working, or you've got the animated stuff that's working. Extend it further. Yet they won't for whatever reason. And then here comes Marvel making everybody look silly because they're Rumpelstiltskin right now, where everything they touch and weave is gold. They've knocked out experimental television. Is it King Midas or is
King
it
Midas,
weaving the straw? I don't know.
Well, yeah,
I'm not an early childhood
Rumpelstiltskin
teacher.
was weaving stuff, and
Okay.
yeah,
Right, I'm not far off, but no. Look at, I mean, Marvel has done. I mean, one, the cinematic universe of their movies is untouchable in terms of being able to be threaded and connected as well as it is, and to be populated with creative talents, top to bottom. Where their worst movie beats some of the best movies other people make. Yeah. And then look at these two forays into television are just different, unique, and still rock solid and continue legit good storytelling, where that has been up front the whole time. And we've been saying it for 8 episodes of Wanda and now 4 episodes of this, where character comes first. And I wish the other people who have great properties would ever get that. Yeah. You know, like, come on.
Yeah, it was recently announced this week that Dwayne Johnson wants to produce or get involved with producing another Man of Steel. Fine, but get a better writer.
Thank you. Know? Yeah.
Wait, like relaunching the movie?
No, well, producing a sequel to get that off the ground because he thinks that his name and money will get that happening.
Well, and then they want to do a Black Adam Superman. They want to do Black Adam Superman versus conflict anyway. So. You know, I mean, DC, you guys mentioned it, putting character first. If you look at the DC films that have actually worked, Shazam, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they actually put their character first.
Yes.
Versus
before spectacle.
Rather than just the spectacle and trying to keep up with the Joneses, when they do put the character first, no, it's not crack it out of the park $100 billion, but they're movies that people go to and say, hey, this is a decent DC film. I actually enjoyed this DC film versus the ones where they're trying to keep up with Marvel and say, oh, we got to do what Marvel. No, just, you know, it's from what we said before, just do your own thing. People will put their butts in the seat because it's a comic book film.
Yeah. You have them at name value alone every time. A Batman movie will sell out opening weekend no matter what schlub they put in that costume. But if you want it to last, tell a damn good story.
Yeah, and it's not just because it's a comic book film. Yeah, it's not just because it's a comic book film. It's because
then it's
iconic. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And to Mark, it's iconic characters. Yeah.
Well, Mark, to your point, I think DC learned the wrong lessons from Marvel initially, what they're trying to run and catch up to what they're doing with their Avengers, universe. But then they learned the right lesson, and this is one of the criticisms that they got, from a certain contingent of fandom with, Shazam and Aquaman. It was like, oh, they're trying to be a little more like Marvel because they're, especially Shazam was like more lighthearted, like, oh, you're gonna make it funny like Marvel. Like, that's not, Marvel gets a bad rap largely because of the Whedonisms, and they are more witty and more optimistic and kind of candy colored than the DC palette. But there is a way, and I think Shazam proved that, to have an adventurous, light-hearted comic book movie that's not silly. It's silly in the right places. It's playful and childish. It's like big as a superhero movie.
But
so
it's
you're going to
still
have some
evil.
whimsy there. But there's some really great, there's some scary stuff in that movie, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and then Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman was grizzled and tough, yet still feminine and inspiring without without being a damsel in distress ever. So that has helped.
So I like that we're in this period that's going to be looked back on in a few years when Marvel and DC become whatever they're going to become post-pandemic. But I feel like they're still nascent. They're still figuring each other out and learning that this works from this side, this doesn't work from this side. What sucks is that you've got these fans, in these different camps who they think that there are camps. They're attacking people, DC folks are attacking Marvel folks are attacking DC. They're all just movies. People can enjoy them. Yeah. And I think I'm fine with hanging out with you guys in the middle. Mark, I know you think this is a Marvel show. Well, we are talking about Marvel properties. I get it. But we all have love for, aspects of DC and Marvel, and Image and all that stuff. Yeah, I know.
Jest. I know you guys are. I know this group is well-rounded in their consumption of product. It's not.
We're not coke addicts.
No, in properties, I should say. You look for a good story regardless of the name on it, and that's all I ever look for out of films. Is give me a good story. I don't care if it's DC, Dark Horse, shit. The Asylum. I love World War Z more than Walking Dead. Why?
Yes.
Because World War Z at least took chances, and by the end of it, the last 2 seasons of the World War Z actually got a little serious, got a little weird. They took some chances, but I'm like, do something different. It's like, I don't care if it's from Asylum. Asylum's got some bad, horrible films. They have entertaining films, just like comic books. I don't look at the property. I look at what's inside that. Because if I come out entertained, it doesn't matter whose name or what company was on it. They succeeded in that I got my money's worth. Yeah,
well totally. I saw something recently where, because of this episode, people were saying, "Oh, I can't believe Disney Plus went there." I think for a while, ever since Disney bought over Marvel, people are saying, "Oh, well, it's a Disney Marvel movie." I think people are forgetting that, like, look, Marvel Studios is in charge. Disney's, giving them the money, but Disney's not out here saying, "Hey, you can't have a bloody shield. Hey, you can't have this. You can't have that." You do what you do what you do, and get it done. And we'll back you, and that's how it's been since Disney has
keep
been
bringing
involved.
the money in, and it's all.
I don't see a big change between the Paramount Marvel Studios and the Disney Marvel Studios. It's in the movies. I felt like it was all just maybe they were branching out and taking a bit more chances and stuff, and going into the more outer space and magical stuff. Fine, but honestly, it's like this talk about how this specific episode was like, whoa, it's really heavy and dark for Disney Plus. I'm like, what did you? First of all, the reason you signed up for Disney Plus is because of The Mandalorian, and it was because of future Marvel stuff. So it wasn't so you could watch, the Apple Dumpling Gang, 6 times in one sitting. It's like, come on, it's like, sure there are diehard Disney fans and stuff, but come on, I mean, the reason you subscribed is for the Star Wars and Marvel stuff, and so, and Disney knows that, so they're going to let Star Wars and Marvel do their own thing. This whole idea of like, oh my gosh, it's so dark. It's like, how could they? Come on.
Yeah, just because it's Disney, it doesn't mean it's wholesome. It's showing up on their platform, but it's and even they've got the entire Star Wars catalog on there. I just watched episode 3 again this week, and you've got a 19-year-old kid being amputated on a lava planet. By his best friend.
They still show Captain America where a guy gets chopped up into the blades of a plane by Cap kicking him on a plane, which I always get a kick out of people going, "Oh, comic books, horror movies are so bad or whatnot." I'm a big horror fan, you can tell. And I'm just like, Captain kicked a guy and he got chopped up on screen into red mist on a plane, and you're sitting here complaining because of my guy decapitating. I'm like, no, I mean, and they
bought
that's on
Lucasfilm
Disney
too, and there's some Indiana Jones movies that would
Indiana
like to have a
Jones,
word about violence.
PG-13.
Oh yeah.
I've got the laser disc somewhere of Temple of Doom, so there you go.
Well, I want to close this out just with a few more lines from Sugio who chimed in, going back to the kind of imperialism theme from earlier. NATO will be powerful forever, probably. This is what really drew my attention.
Yeah.
But I would like to see the Star Trek future happen, a more enlightened, peaceful world. Except, David, you probably know where I'm going with this. The reality of Star Trek, the Earth Star Trek, we blew ourselves up in World War III in order to get to that utopia a couple hundred years later.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's get started, fellas.
Maybe we could just go
Let's
straight.
get started.
Can we just go straight to developing Khan?
Yeah,
I want to
or-
use his blood to live forever. There you go.
Or straight to lower decks or something.
Freeze me in a tube and send me with him. Let's go.
I want to use his blood to live forever.
And have those awesome pecs.
And those pecs,
He does
And to
have
be able to
nice
scream,
pecs.
"This is SETI Alpha 5!"
And that voice. I want that voice. Cack.
Corinthian leather.
Fine Corinthian leather.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you guys for another wonderful and extended recap. These episodes are getting longer than the shows that we're covering.
No
but
ads,
I have no problem with that.
credits. Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
We're getting the full value. And I kind of made an error earlier when I referred to this series as a 3-hour movie, because I realized that these episodes are creeping further and further along to the hour length.
Yeah.
I still maintain you could trim some stuff out and still make a feature length film. But I'm really excited to see where episode 5. I'm really anticipating how that opens, as we kind of discussed earlier. Next week I want to talk about how this sort of ties forward into WandaVision, because something that we were talking about earlier in this episode inspired that thought, particularly on the government's intentions with superpowered people. But I want to give it another episode to let that gestate.
Okay.
But anyway, thank you guys. I didn't introduce you at the beginning of this because we were talking about booze
Our
and
names
stuff.
are
We're
out
out
there.
labels down here. We're fine.
I don't believe in labels, but okay. I'm Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Don Shanahan of 25 Years Later, Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast. Was there a new episode today?
There was Cherry, if you're into your Tom Hollandness.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I missed that. I'll have to go catch up with it. And also, Every Movie Has a Lesson, the one that started it all. And we got David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck from the Spoiler Room podcast. Again, join us on. It's Tuesday this week, right? This coming up Tuesday, Mark?
Yes.
We're switching one of the days later on.
It is. This next week is Tuesday, and then the week after it'll be Monday because I get my second shot of 5G.
Super Soldier Serum.
I get the Super Soldier Serum on the 20th, so we'll be Monday for Braddock, but we'll be Tuesday at 9:30 Central Time. We'll be talking Missing in Action 2, Back to the Beginning.
Whoa.
Yes.
Really quick roundtable.
Mhm.
Would you take it?
The Super Soldier Serum or the COVID vaccine?
I already
Those
got
are
my
two
two
different
COVID
podcasts.
vaccines.
Off this episode.
I'm
So would
good
you
on
take
number
the
one.
Super Soldier Serum?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Why?
So we got 2 against 2.
2 against 2 here.
Why do you need to take the Super Soldier
awesome,
Serum?
and it would just amplify the awesomeness. So
There you go.
You can
If it
amplify
grew
the
hair-
awesomeness by believing in yourself.
See,
Yeah, that hasn't
Wow.
worked so
Was
far,
that
but
from Reading
better
Rainbow?
Rogers.
and I can
Fred.
believe it. I can believe it
Thank you,
myself and still bend steel bars. You can have
I'm
both,
okay.
really.
Hey,
So,
Mark, just remember there is no spoon.
there
anyway.
is no spoon.
I'll be your battle star, Mark. How's that?
Awesome.
Hey, keep that off
just
air.
don't break my neck.
Can we get the Enrique Iglesias "I'll Be Your Hero" song to take us out of this episode?
There you go.
I'm not paying for that. All right, guys, thank you very much. Folks, if you're watching this live or catching up with the recording
We're
later,
sorry.
please drop some comments down below. Let us know what you thought of episode 4. Let us know if you have any questions you'd like us to bring up and address. Next Friday, we'll be back here live, 8:30 p.m. Central on Friday for episode 5 of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, premiering on Disney+. Thank you all very much. Good night. I'm going to end the broadcast in a timely fashion this time, I think. So